before we start today's video, I just wanted to let everybody know I apologize for not posting yesterday. I appreciate you hanging out and waiting for this video to get posted today. Mother Nature had other ideas, came through. I didn't have any power for almost a full day, so I appreciate you waiting. Now on to the video. Hey everybody, it's Scott. Welcome back to the One-Off Shop. Today we have something special for you. It's going to be a triple chocolate espresso coffee cake with a homemade butterscotch sauce. So stick around. It's going to be good. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make up the crumble that goes across the top of our coffee cake here. So I've already got my 3/4 cup flour in my food processor here. Let's go ahead and add a 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of cocoa, 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar, and 6 tablespoons of butter that's cold and have it cubed up. Let's go ahead and get that in there. Alright, and about 1 teaspoon of vanilla, or a good splash. Might be a little much. Remember, we can always guesstimate on vanilla. Alright, so let's go ahead and get that closed up and let's get that pulsed. Alright, once we've got it nice and crumbly, something about like that, we'll go ahead and stick this in the fridge, make sure it stays cold. And then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make up the batter for our coffee cake. Now, like I said, we were going to take a regular cake mix and we were going to modify it. So what I want you to do, and this is very important, anytime that you're modifying a box cake mix, you want to go ahead and mix it up by the directions on the box, because that's a certain moisture level that they're looking for. And then anything that you add in, the more dry that you add, you got to add a little bit more wet back to it in order to keep everything baking properly. So anyway, according to my directions on my box here, I need 3 eggs, a cup of water, and a 1/2 cup of oil. Almost like a brownie recipe. Alright, so that's just to make it up according to the box directions. So let's get that done. Alright, now that we got that all mixed up, let's go ahead and modify our recipe here and turn it into some coffee cake. Alright, now that we've got our cake mix made up according to the box directions here, I am a big fan of chocolate. The darker the better, so that's why I went with a Devil's Food cake mix. Alright, now what we're going to add to it is a 1/2 cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. We're going to add a couple teaspoons of baking powder to help with that rise. If I can find my measuring spoons here. We're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of instant coffee. And our 2 tablespoons of triple chocolate coffee espresso. Now let's go ahead and finish mixing this up just like it is. doing a coffee cake, it's all about the texture of your batter. If your batter's too wet, you're going to get a really, really dense cake. And if it's too dry, it's going to rise up too much and it's going to be really crumbly. So we're looking for something that's right in between. It's a little bit crumbly, but we also want it to be kind of moist. So what we've added here, the sugar, the extra baking powder, the instant coffee, and the espresso, we added some dry ingredients back to it, but we also added a little bit of wet to keep that ratio just where we want it while we're baking. So what we want to do now is go ahead and get this into a pan that's lined with parchment. Now what I do when I have to line a pan that I know I'm going to be pulling this out, which we will be at the end because I have a crazy idea on how to plate this. So what you want to do is take your parchment, cut your corner about 2-3 inches in, and that way when you push it down into your pan, you can just fold those corners over, just like that, and it'll squish. We'll go ahead and get our batter in the pan here. We had a tiny spot of dry stuff. All right, let's go ahead and get that spread out in here where it's nice and even. The last thing you want to do before you put your coffee cake in the oven is go ahead and pull your crumble out of the fridge and give it a quick pulse, just to make sure it's good and stirred up. And let's go ahead and get that out, and we'll get that sprinkled on top of our coffee cake here. You might see little clumps of flour or something like that. That's okay. Looks a little dusty. But what you want to do is just get you a decent layer across the top. And then stop. You don't want to do too much of a big caking on here. Just try to get it into the nooks and crannies if you can. And then go ahead and get that into your preheated oven. Alright, so now we're going to make our homemade butterscotch sauce. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get you a medium-sized saucepan. Get it on the stove and start melting you down 1 stick of butter on medium heat. And remember, I always use salted butter. So if you use unsalted butter, make sure that you add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt to this recipe as well. You could add that in at the same time you're melting your butter. So let's go ahead and get our butter melted. Alright, once we've got our butter completely melted, and remember, you want to do this slowly. You want to bring it up on medium heat. That's the trick to sugar work. Make sure that you bring the heat up slowly. If you bring it up too fast, you can't get it back. Alright, so next we're going to add 1.5 cups of brown sugar. Let's go ahead and get that stirred in, and keep stirring until everything is nice and smooth. Once you've got your mixture brought to a boil, and you had it there for about 3-4 minutes, you're giving that sugar a chance to start to set up. What we're going to do now is we're going to slowly add 1 cup of heavy cream. Make sure you stir the entire time you're adding this cream in, because you don't want to get any lumps in it. So just keep stirring until everything comes together. And then you're going to want to bring this back to a boil again. Alright, once you've got that cream fully incorporated, go ahead and add 1/2 teaspoon of lemon juice. Once you get this mixture up to a boil, you want to keep it there for about 4 or 5 minutes. That's going to give that cream and the sugar time to come together and start to thicken up. If while you're boiling it starts to swell up on you some, make sure you reduce your heat. Pull the pan away from the burner if you have to, just don't let it overflow. Alright, once you've been boiling it for 3 or 4 minutes, go ahead and add your sea salt and your vanilla. And once it starts thickening up real good and you can start seeing a little bit of trails behind your spatula when you drag it through, you know you're starting to thicken up. Give it just a couple more minutes and then transfer it to a glass container to cool. Alright, once you're done boiling it, go ahead and let's get it transferred to a glass container so it can cool. Alright, as soon as the cake comes out of the oven, we'll be back. Alright, here's our coffee cake. Got it out of the oven here. and we've let it sit and cool for about an hour and a half now. Let it completely cool. Let's go ahead and lift it out of our pan here. And we'll go ahead and get the parchment peeled down around the outside here. Man, that looks good. Alright, in just a second we'll come back. We'll go ahead and I'll show you my crazy idea for plating this thing. Alright, let's go ahead and take our long knife here and we'll go ahead and we'll cut this. We're going to try to cut these into basically a square shape here. I guess we'll just do two. The end here. Go ahead and slide your knife under there. Get it up under. We'll get that on a plate. Alright, let's go ahead and move that off to the side. Now here's my crazy idea for plating this. I've got these steel biscuit cutters here. So what I was thinking is we could just stick the smaller one in right down the center. Stick the bigger one right around it. Just like that. Let's give that a little twist. Now the piece broke, but that's right. Let's lift that out. So now we have a hole. So what I want to do is let's take the crumbs from the bigger one and we'll pile those up in the bottom of our hole here. Then we'll take the center plug and we'll just set it back in there so it sits up just a little bit. Then we'll take our butterscotch sauce that's been cooling, that's nice and thick and creamy. And we'll just drizzle that right around inside our little moat there. This might work better using different size cutters, something like that. Let's get more in there. But anyway, just a crazy idea. We'll throw a little of this on top of here and we'll give this a try. Triple chocolate espresso coffee cake with homemade butterscotch sauce. What do y'all think? Alright, let's go ahead and give this a shot here. Coffee cake is just right. Just moist enough to hold everything together, but it falls apart when you bite into it. It's got a very subtle coffee taste to it. You can really taste all the chocolate, the crust on top, nice and crispy. And then the butterscotch sauce with that sea salt in it tops it all off. Simply amazing. I love it. I hope you guys love it too. Alright everybody, that's it for today's episode. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Triple chocolate espresso coffee cake with homemade butterscotch sauce. Turned out really good. I wanted to give a shout out to everybody that's been signing up on my Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. I need plenty more people to do it though, so if you could spread the word, I really appreciate it. Another shout out, I got my first donation on my Give Send Go. Shout out to my buddy Godai. Thank you, brother. Alright, and until next time, which next time we're actually going to be doing, I've got some Angus steaks, I think, in the freezer. So we'll pull those out and see what we can't do with those. Some sort of a marinade, I'm sure. Keep rifling through the cabinets, keep rummaging through the fridge, and turn those what ifs into a one-off.